Again, well, there you go. Okay, so as you might know, this M4C Doctoral Training Partnership is a consortium of 8 different universities, and those universities are Birmingham City, University of Birmingham, Coventry, Warwick, De Montfort, University of Leicester, Nottingham Trent, and the University of Nottingham. And each university will have 2 corresponding site directors. And with you today are the 4 site directors from Coventry and Warwick. So this is the application workshop for the 2022 entry, which would start, the application is, the deadline is January, but you would start, if you were successful, you would start in September, October of 2022. So what you can expect from this session, well, we'll talk you through what the M4C is, the context and the funding, what the priorities are, what the awards are, the application process, the M4C application assessment criteria, and then contact details. It's important for you to get a sense of this because the M4C is a holistic, it's called a training program. So it's not simply interested in supporting outstanding research, it's also interested in training and developing future academic and professional careers. So it's useful for you to get a sense of that as you progress into your application, because if you have a sense of that in the application, then you can gear your application to that. Then we will proceed after this session with a writing workshop, and you will have a separate Zoom link for that. And we will manage that at the end of this presentation. So at that writing workshop, we will give you some sample applications, and we'll talk you through the key sort of points that you might want to think as you make your way, answer your questions, etc. So that's kind of like a separate breakout room. If you are interested in CDAs and practice research, there'll be one group for you. If you're interested in the open calls with Coventry, there'll be one group for you. And if you're interested in open call for Warwick, there'll also be a group for you. At the end, we'll come back together, all of us, for any final questions and concluding remarks toward the end of the session when we get to it at around 12:45, 1 o'clock. So what is the M4C? Again, the M4C is not simply there to support outstanding research. It's there to support outstanding professional development through outstanding research. So it's a thought, they want to engender a thriving community of postgraduate research students that will produce world-class research. They want to promote collaborative postgraduate research. So getting your cohorts together to actually start thinking together, creating networks of engagement, joint supervision and partner engagement. So it's not simply about sticking with your institution, but expanding the sort of network that is the Midlands University institution. And also, really importantly for the M4C is to engage with organizations in the culture, creative, and heritage sectors. So you'll see that this is sort of all one big ball that is the M4C. So it develops professional and research training initiatives in the UK and internationally, and it supports training activities in areas such as policy engagement and the digital humanities. Again, those are cutting edge things right now. Offers placement opportunities and the chance to develop cohort activities, researchers from other doctoral training programs. So there's crossovers there. You don't just stay in this little sort of home that is the M4C, but there's chances to actually engage with other AHRC doctoral training programs throughout the UK. And it also provides post-completion routes out support, so things like M4C fellows. So at the end of your doctorate work with the M4C, there is the possibility for you to take on postdoctoral work. Next slide. So it's really important to get a sense of also the outreach, these creative cultural partners that the M4C has. And these are, you know, we have at this point 80 collaborative partners, and we make use of them. And this is also to enrich your experience, to give you a sense of what's out there, that you aren't simply dictated by your research experience, that you have a way of actually seeing how your research can make impact outside of the institution, and also how that creative professional sort of aspect can come back in and filter into the academic institution that you're working with. Okay, next slide. Okay, so these are the actual sort of nitty-gritty of the award. There are one of 10, the M4C is one of 10 AHRC doctoral training partnerships. And at the time that it was inaugurated, or it went through its validation process, this doctoral training program was ranked one of the highest in the national doctoral training program competition. So it's the way it's set up is very useful for meeting the demands of 21st century intellectual and academic life. From 2019 to 2025, we will have 7 cohorts, and I think we're now into our 4th cohort or 5th cohort, but we have funding until 2025. You'll see that the way that funding is set up is that it's a partnership between the AHRC and also the various higher education institutions that are part of the consortium. So there's 2 schemes that are available to you. There's the open competition, and this year we will have 93 available to you. So you'll have to remember that's a really important number to consider. That's 93 awards. Over last year we had about, I don't remember, I think maybe 800 applications. Was that correct, David?
It was something along those lines, I think, and certainly to the panels we had probably about maybe around twice that number altogether, so about 180 maybe.
Yeah, there were a lot of applications, so it is fiercely competitive, and we have 83 to award this year. Those are the open competition. The other scheme is a collaborative doctoral award. That's a CDA. Those we have 16 awards of, and those are already established as going forward. They are for you there to apply. It's not that you have to come up with it. The funding is assured if you are given, if you are offered a place with this, it's likely that you will get it right away. It's not as fiercely competitive as the open competition. Also, for you to know how the awards are distributed. Those awards are distributed on merit and excellence. Each institution does not have a quota of awards. You apply and you are vetted as an equal among equals. Yeah, so that's really good for you to know. There's types of award. There's a full-time and a part-time. You can apply if you want to do part-time. That's very possible and also welcome. And you can also come in after 1 year of doctoral study already. You can apply to the M4C to fund the rest of your study. Eligibility. Now, of course, UK residents, if you have a UK residency, then you are available, then that will cover you for UK tuition fees and also the stipend associated with the award. International students, they can also apply, and those students are welcome to apply. Let me just read that so I don't get it completely backwards. International students will also be able to apply for an AHRC funded postgraduate studentship for the start of the 22-23 academic year. They will be eligible for tuition fees at the UK rate and a stipend to support their living costs. First point on that, I believe across the consortium, we have had assurances that if you are, as an international student, you are successful in your application, that you would be treated as a UK student. So you're international, you would not be required to pay the international fees. Then the stipend, the UK research, the UKRI and AHRC part of the funding will not cover international fees set by the university, but again, that's that they will be supplemented or added on with your institution. We already have agreement with that. We can't say completely that your stipend as an international student will be paid, but we have not had an example go forward in the history of the award where that has not been. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. So M4C Priorities. Again, this goes back to its concept as a doctoral training program rather than just simply a fund to facilitate excellent research. Obviously, the fund is there to support and fund outstanding research, but along with that, they are there to enhance opportunities for PGR collaboration between partner institutions. So you'll see that as soon as you get involved with the cohort, if you're successful. It will be there to promote researcher engagement with non-university organizations. Again, making a bridge from the university to the outside world and vice versa. To provide placement and training opportunities for funded research. Yeah, so there's placement opportunities if you are an open doctoral award holder, and those placements are already in a way built into the structure of a collaborative doctoral award. So there's employability placements where you can already get sort of a step up on the ladder of getting that CV ready to show that you have experience in professional experience. There's research placements, and there's also training needs and potential placements for you to actually identify. So the M4C is very, they have their ears open and they're very keen to hear what you have to say about the developments that you would like to see that will support you. Okay.
Can I just add on that, Vicky? It's a really important, I think, and valuable aspect of the consortium that we've got kind of a dedicated team who look after things like placements and personal development. So it's a really great part, I think, of a PhD experience with the consortium, that you have that those opportunities. So I think it's a great thing to explore and consider.
Great. Okay, I'm going to move on to subject coverage. The AHRC is interested in the arts and humanities. That's the Arts and Humanities Research Council. So there's a number of subjects here on the left side: archaeology, classics, cultural museum studies, dance, design. Have a look at the list. They're not completely reliant on those distinctions. There's always sort of room to move around. And as you see through the application, you'll see that they'll be asking you to try to identify a primary area, but they'll have secondary and tertiary areas as well, so that you can get a sense of the fact that they are not limiting you to particular disciplinary scope. And as you'll see on the other hand, the other column, there are, and we do encourage ESRC, so that's the social sciences, and David, can you help me?
Economic and Social Research Council.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, there's overlap with those subjects. So area studies, culture communication, media studies, cultural policy, and all of the sort of really useful kinds of things that area can add to AHRC coverage is really useful. David, can I ask you here to say something about the kind of overlap between them and what
Yeah, sure.
you consider as you go through your application?
Yeah, I think it's an important kind of consideration, and as part of the application process, you are asked to identify the subject area that you are working on. It's important to say that if you get that wrong in some way, then it doesn't disqualify you in any way. But and there's time for you to work with a department after you've submitted your application to kind of clarify that. But the AHRC ESRC overlap issue is something that kind of comes up every year, and it's just important, I think, if you are doing work in these areas, that you talk to your potential supervisors and departments about how you make sure that your application is kind of pointed towards the AHRC bit of that kind of shared territory. So there's just I think if you're on those areas, there's just a little bit more finessing to do in relationship to a proposal.
Yeah, that's not intended to deter you. I mean, excellent, outstanding, unique research happens when those sort of boundaries become blurred, but it's also important to remember that this is an AHRC award, and that if you're using, groundbreaking methodologies from another area, that you need to show how it's actually applied or relevant for an HRC profile. And your supervisors, as you make contact through the application process, will be very keen to help you to maximize that. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is the money part. And this is sort of an indicative rate for 2022, and that could always change, but probably not too much. This will cover your fees of £4,500, and you will be in award of a maintenance grant, and that's per year. Is that correct, David? Which is 15,609.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think there might be annual increments, but that's the starting point, I think.
Yeah, so that's per year. And that will be awarded to you as part of the gift of the award. In part-time situation, it's 2,250 for fees and 7,805 for the maintenance grant. David, do you know the sort of rules around part-time working when on a part-time or?
I assume if the funding is pro-rata, then it's basically double. So I assume that's the case. Maybe Sharon or Samima might know. Definitely.
Well, if people are interested, we can talk about that in the questions or in our breakout sessions after. Duration of the award is important to know. So the Open Doctoral Award, the open competition is 3.5 years. That's a baseline. But you can also extend up to 6 months. And if, for those of you that already had a look at the application, you have a section there where you can make the case for extending 6 months. So you can extend 6 months and make it 4 years if you have something that's integral, that will take time, that's integral to the research, but will take more time. The Collaborative Doctoral Award, because it considers that there's a kind of time investment put in with your collaborative partner, it's immediately 4 years. Okay, next slide. Okay, so you have additional funding attached to the award, this one. Okay, so that's the maintenance grant, and the fees. You have additional monies that you can bid for if you are successful. One of those is the Research Development Fund, and that is specifically in relation to your research. That is designed to support your primary research activities. So that could be participation in conferences, your primary research at archives and field visits, etc., and in important studies or essential study visits to the UK and overseas if that is part of your research design. Okay, so that's the Research Development Fund. That's for you to support your research. Then there's the Engagement Fund. So the Engagement Fund is there for students to apply to do placements with collaborative partners, and also to engage with other activities that will help them in their professional development. So not necessarily directly related to their research, but to support sort of the general overview of the kind of spirit of what their research is. Yeah, so the Engagement Fund will cover accommodation, travel, and other associated costs. The other final one is a Cohort Development Fund. These are, this is a fund that's across the consortium, and it's devised and led by a minimum of 2 doctoral researchers from 2 or more of the M4C institutions. So this is about building collegiality, networking across the consortium. You are able to come up with proposals for conferences, workshops, symposia, retreats, skills training. You know, if you want to write, if you want to propose a writing workshop or something like that, that's great. Research network training, development activities, discipline crossing research, researcher-led responses to external partner challenge themes. If you go to the M4C website, they do a really good job of showing you what they're doing there. Innovative training for language research. Yeah, so that's the Cohort Development Fund, and it is what it says. It's there to develop you as a cohort. And if you are successful in getting the award, you will be part of a cohort across the consortium. Yes, you will be invited to be part of a group that doesn't just include your university.
Can I just add here as well, Vicky?
Yeah.
Again, this is another real kind of I think value to the M4C kind of provision, that you have access, as well as to your stipend, you have access to significant amounts of additional funding to support you. And it's important to say for all of these things, there isn't a kind of an individual quota that a budget that you can kind of spend. You are allocated as an individual. You can apply for as much as you like, really, as long as it's kind of valuable and adding value to your research. So I'm always slightly blown away by this bit of the scheme. It's for those of us who did PhDs in the dim and distant past 20 years ago or something. I am profoundly jealous of this particular aspect of the opportunity. So it's a really great resource.
Okay, moving on. Okay, just to give you a sort of timeline of the application process. So the application deadline for you to get your application in and all of the things that are attached to that is the 12th of January 2022 at noon GMT time, for those of you who are coming to us internationally. That is already live on the website, as you'll probably know, and yeah, go to the M4C website to start that application process. So the starting stage 1 is to choose between an open doctoral competition or a collaborative doctoral award. If you're going for the open competition, it would be strongly advised that you identify potential supervisors and begin a dialogue with them as soon as possible. If you are not already doing that, that is your next step. Sheena, you've come up there. Do you want to say something?
I just want to say that this is a hard deadline. So don't aim for that deadline. Aim for 2 or 3 days before, because we've had all kinds of really valuable, valid excuses for people who submit late and they have not been considered. So it's a really, really hard deadline of noon on the 12th of January. Thanks, Vicky.
Yeah, so choose open doctoral competition or a CDA. With a CDA, select your project, select the project that interests you. You could look at it. There's some fantastic things there this year, I have to say. Select a project and contact the lead supervisor. Just talk through your ideas with them. It's a focused call, but that doesn't mean that they're not really interested in thinking about what you have to offer, and we'll encourage you to come at it from your specific perspective. Under the M4C rules, you can submit both open and CDA competition to both competitions. As I understand it, though, you will have to actually do 2 separate applications via the M4C website, but there's no reason why you can't do that. Okay, next slide. Okay, so these are the CDAs this year. As I said, there's some fantastic titles, all AI and World's a Stage, Beyond Evaluation, looking at the legacy of the City of Culture, Black Practice, Hidden Culture, and Access to the UK Creative Economies. There are, just fantastic topics that also have a corresponding cultural partner. Again, that's allowing you to really expand your horizons by giving you a sense of what's outside, the walls of the ivory tower. I would strongly suggest you have a look at that, even if you are set on an open doctoral award. The thing that you need to keep in mind is that these CDA projects are way less competition. If you can think that there's maybe 3, 4, 5, hopefully 10 people applying to these, that's, maybe 160 people applying to all these, and you have that, and that's in comparison to the ODAs where you'll have 800. Yeah, so the odds are much more in your favor if you consider these seriously. And we would ask you to really look at these, because they are not about, playing the piper to a particular kind of agenda. It's about you coming in and having the ability to respond creatively and independently to a particular focused call. So again, I would strongly suggest you have a look at these. Okay, get off my soapbox there. Yeah. Okay, so stage 2, once you've decided, once you're a CDA, ODA, you've made contact with your supervisors, apply for a place at your chosen M4C institution. That is the next stage, and that is what you need to do, because you need to start an application with your institution. So that's Coventry, Warwick, Birmingham, Nottingham, wherever you're going to apply to them, because you will need an application number, an applicant number, to actually then start the M4C application. And also consult the home university PhD application pages, and those are very clearly marked on the application page on the M4C website. For the references, your references, the M4C online reference must be used, right? So the interface that you get your referee to use, it has to be that online interface. It can't be a reference letter that they send to you via email. You need to provide details of these 2 referees via the M4C online application portal. This is the same portal that will allow you to do your application, so that they can be contacted to provide your reference. Your referee will be sent an automated request to complete the M4C application form. okay? After the after the full stop deadline on the 12th of January, then we will go into a period of institutional review where the institution looks at the applications that have been presented to them. Then the institution will forward them on to an M4C subject panel. The subject panels will deliberate on these applications to determine the most outstanding and excellent one. And then those ones will go to a further confirmation panel. And ideally, you should be hearing if you've been successful sometime around the end of March, beginning of April.
Can I just add there, Vicky, on references? I know we're going to talk about them a bit more, but I think as we mentioned earlier about contacting potential supervisors soon, I think it's a good idea to contact potential referees soon as well, because you know, it's going to be important that they're aware of that deadline and that they're aware of what you're applying for. So I think contact with potential referees is a good idea relatively soon too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the next one is actually slides on do's and don'ts for, no, not quite yet. Okay, stage 3, applying for funding. I've sort of run ahead of myself at least. So yeah, apply for the funding, submission via M4C online application portal, which I've already talked about. Oh, the guidance notes for applicants. I think that these are actually very good. We've gone through a process of review over the last 10 months, and I think that they are really good. Please do spend some time with them. They are there to help you, and I think if you use them properly, they're a very good guide. Look at your online application form, and you will need to get, as I said before, the applicant number, and that will be provided by the institution that you start your application with. And again, yeah, successful applicants will be notified sometime in April 2022. Okay, M4C, I'm getting pretty close to time. M4C criteria. The M4C criteria is built on the 4 Ps: person, project, preparedness, place. Really think seriously about those. It's not simply the fact that you have a very strong prior degree. It's also about who you are. What kinds of extra activities have you done that give you the preparedness to undertake the kind of weight of this project? It's not simply the project, it has to be an excellent project, it has to be completely airtight in terms of why the methodology, why this particular perspective, but it also is situated within the place. Yeah, you want to be able to show that the place you're going to be doing this is actually going to support the excellence of the project. So I'm going to just give you a chance to, this is also on the M4C website, and you can have a look at that. And it really think about that as you make your way through the application. Does anyone want to say anything about that quickly, or should I just go on?
Just to say that as well as the guidance on the M4C website, we now publish these criteria and the criteria that the scoring panels will use. So you can get a sense, if you look at that, what kind of things you need to be evidencing in your sorry, terrible word. What kind of thing you need to be showing in your application, which allows the panels to see evidence of all of these things.
Great. Okay, next one. Okay, so tips for referees. These are really useful for you. I would strongly pay attention to the first one. Check that your referees, before you even do that, ask your referees to give you a reference. Don't assume that they will. And if you just send the application to them via the M4C and they find, oh, so-and-so has asked for a reference for you, they might not be as supportive of you if you haven't actually approached them before. So approach your referees, then check if they've actually received the request, because sometimes it'll go into their spam. Give them a good time, as David said, approach your referees now. Again, early December is at the latest, or even before, I mean, you know yourself how crazy the run up to Christmas gets. Explain to your referee that the M4C is the only reference they need to complete, and this is completely separate from the university admission system. Now, that I'm saying that with a slight caveat, okay? It is, depending on the institution that you are applying through. So again, this is the individual institution, Coventry and Warwick, will ask you to provide a reference for your application to us. So you need to prepare your referees for that as well. That it's not necessary, and there's also something in there around, you can just ask the referee to send in the reference, the same wording of the reference that they give to the M4C, but you also let them choose, but also make them aware that there might be an instance where they're going to be asked to do 2 references for you. You know, again, pave the way for them to know exactly what they're getting into. It's the applicant, it's your responsibility to monitor the reference program and that to check that everything has been received. Yes, because as Sheena says, there have been many reasons why, and really valid reasons, but the deadline is the deadline. Double check that you have inputted the correct email address for your referee. Again, that's really important. Applications cannot be submitted without 2 completed references. Again, that's about the deadline. If they aren't there, your application is not finished, completed. Yeah, and again, that guidance is great. So have a clear read through it.
Just on that, Vicky.
Yeah.
There was a question in the chat from, I think, Elizabeth, about whether the supervisor should be the referee, and there are a couple of lines in that in the guidance, just to say that it says only a potential supervisor to be your referee if that person has already taught you, ideally at master's rather than undergraduate level, and knows your academic record. And if a potential supervisor has not taught you before and can only comment on the PhD proposal that you've shared with them, they should not be a referee. So we want the referees to have an experience of you as a student and your academic record and experience, and be able to comment on that.
Great. I think I'm coming quickly to my final slide. Yeah, okay. And this is, again, contact details. If you need to get in touch with any of your individual institutions, the institutions that you're applying for a place for, in order to then support the application for funding. Okay. This is on the website, so I'm not going to leave it up for much time, but I think we are now, I'm going to stop sharing and then move to people with questions. Can we do hands up first if you have a question? And okay, Sheena, you have a question.
Myself, there we are. There were a couple of questions in the chat that I don't think were properly answered, and they may be applied to other people. It was, why are CDAs and practice research grouped together? And should somebody who's interested in doing a practice-based PhD go to the CDA and practice, or go to the Coventry or Warwick open call? So it's only for today. So some of the CDAs expect practice research, and if you're doing an open call, you may or you may not do practice research. But Vicky and David have good experience of practice PhDs, so that's why we grouped them together today. But when you apply for CDA, you may or you may not use a practice-based methodology, have a practice output or whatever, and similarly for the open call. So you choose for today. Thank you.
Were there further questions in the chat then that we need to answer?
Can I just come in, Vicky, because I think, again, there may be a slight misunderstanding in the questions about collaborative partners for M4C. So yes, Catherine, thank you for putting the link there. That's the list of sort of formal M4C partners, but in terms of collaborative partners for the CDAs, those are specific to the project. Those two groups of partners may overlap, but I'll put a link in a minute to the page where this year's CDAs are advertised, and that will tell you who the partners are for each individual project out of the 16, I think, that are there. So I hope that clarifies things.
Yeah, if you are doing open call practice-based, yes, go to this practice-based CDA, or not. I mean, I'm sure Sheena, if you're coming to see you, or Warwick, Jenny will be able to help you there as well. But we'll be looking at practice-based in the CDA ones as well, because that's my area of specialty as well as CDAs. How do you find a supervisor if you are not doing a CA? I think that's a useful question to ask Sheena or Jenny when you have them in the breakout room. I think people have, so is there any questions that haven't been answered? Can you please pipe up? I'm just reading and it's probably really boring for you.
It says, can we apply to more than one CDA? I don't think so. I think you can apply to one CDA and one open call. But I think I've never known anyone apply for more than one CDA. It probably says it somewhere.
And Andrea's question, can you apply in 2 consecutive years? Yes, you can, but only 2. And actually, I don't think they have to be consecutive, but if you're not successful first time, you can apply once again.
So that means you can apply before you start your PhD, and you can also apply in the first year of your PhD. And in that situation, you would expect your supervisor to be a referee because you've already done a year.
I think, Elise, do you have a question?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to ask for some clarification around the thing with referees, if they have to fill in just the M4C, or if they possibly have to also fill in like something for the university application. Can you just clarify what, and it's maybe different for different universities, so it's perhaps hard to generalize.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to generalize, but if you're applying to Coventry University, for instance, you will be asked to provide a separate reference for that application to be successful. So it doesn't matter if your referees are different or if they're the same, but in order to full requirements of Coventry's admissions, you will need to provide a reference. Coventry has said in principle they are not, they will be very happy to accept the M4C reference that your M4C referee has given. It's just that they will have your M4C referee will have to send that separately to Coventry. Is that clear?
I think so, yes. Thank you.
Maybe the best process is to check with the the contact details. There's all the contact details information are there. Give a quick email to the institution that you're planning to apply to and ask them what their instructions are for applying. Any more questions? I think I'm going to end here, and then I will see you guys or whoever is coming into David's and my session then, and then we'll reconvene in about at about 12:45 just to end the session.
Vicky, can I just very quickly interject and explain how we've organised the breakout sessions? I did send an agenda a couple of hours ago, but I appreciate many of you may not have checked your emails or have received this or are using your mobile devices. So firstly, can I ask Sharon, can you post, thank you, individual links? So I'm just going to very quickly share my screen. Just give me a moment. Can't see it. Oh, here, right, share. Okay. So, and Sharon, can I get you also to post the individual links and maybe post this too? What we've done is, rather than set up the breakout rooms, pre-assigned breakout rooms or randomly allocate them, we've set them up as individual meetings with a separate meeting ID. So depending on which session you wish to participate in, so we have a couple, we have the CDA and practice research. They are all running in parallel. I should really emphasize that. So we have the CDA and practice research, we have the open call for both the for CU and University of Warwick. We hope that all of these sessions will end at 12:45, and then we come back together for the closing session and Q&A. So you will see that the closing session and Q&A is this room that we're in. It has the same meeting ID and passcode. So depending on which session you wish to participate in, you need to leave this meeting and then join the session you want to attend. If you have any questions, can you raise your hands? I don't think it's a complicated setup, but we just have someone joining the waiting room now.
And can I just also ask Sharon and Samima, could you share the example applications now with people, or arrange to share them so we have them on hand to look at them when we meet in our separate groups?
I can do that. It'll take me a couple of minutes. Let me just stop sharing my screen.
I mean, we can end this. Why don't we end this meeting now, and we'll reconvene in about 10 minutes in our breakout groups, and we will have the, thank you, Sheena. 5 minutes. In 5 minutes. Okay, we'll reconvene in 5 minutes with those breakout groups. And somehow we will have shared those examples with you. I'll see you in 5 minutes.
Before everyone goes, if you get lost and can't find us, just email me. It's Sharon with 2 R's, sharon.wilson@warwick.ac.uk, and I can help you find the right place. Okay, see you shortly.